chase right here until they come to an
Go
end.
northbound on Hilton Street from North Avenue. Gonna make the left and go on Clifton towards Walbrook Junction. He's stopping here, hold the air. Clifton and Denison, Clifton and Denison. Stopping here, hold the air. Everybody over here, and the door, roll call, make sure all the units are okay. Make sure all that is on the way.
We recognize that this is a tragic incident that's difficult to watch. Our thoughts remain with the Daniels family. All officers involved remain on routine administrative leave and have been referred to our Officer Safety and Wellness. This incident is concerning, and we remain dedicated to a full and thorough investigation. Before taking questions, I just want to talk, the incident is tragic, but again, the following chase, whatever you want to call it, went on for 18 minutes before we got to this point, and our helicopter was right above it. So, unfortunate, tragic incident, but at this point, we'll take questions.
All right, so we're going to start with questions at Mike in the back, and then we'll work our way to Maggie and to the front row. So, Mike?
Commissioner, or anyone who wants to address this, just I know it was highlighted that he was reaching down. If you can explain that and just your perspective, seeing that, do you believe that he was reaching for the BB gun, that it was, posed a danger to him?
We know that the officer who recovered the BB gun did not fire. He was a witnessing officer. He said he took the gun out of the suspect's hands, Mr. Daniels' hands. Unfortunately, because the body-worn camera is on their chest, he kind of blocks it out by his reaching across. So we were able to interview the officer that witnessed and recovered the weapon.
And during the video, as the officers are approaching the vehicle and they're going into the door, you hear one of the officers yell, "Gun, gun, gun." So one of the officers observed the gun, and then, of course, when they opened the door up, there was a gun. That gun is a replica of a Colt 1911. Looks just like one, except that one happens to be is a BB gun. As you took it out, it looks like a real gun. It's not marked as a BB gun.
And if many of the officers, other than the witnessing officer, given statements at this point?
So they don't give statements yet. Any criminal investigation, they have the right to an attorney. That process has not happened yet. Again, we like to get the videos out as soon as we can so the public sees them. There is a long process in these investigations with the Attorney General's office, and we're committed to that process.
Maggie?
Where did the officers see the BB gun originally in the car? Because you
He's one of the officers who fired, so we can't interview him yet. Basically, you see the officer that comes up. The officer, when you see the video, I know you saw it really quick, but you have an officer standing right next to the window with the glass breaking device. That officer doesn't even have his weapon out. He's got the device to break the glass. The officer that's coming up from the angle sees the gun, yells gun, gun, gun 3 times or more, and then he starts to back up, and then unfortunately Mr. Daniels lowers his hand and the officer shoots.
Tommy?
So is it 6 officers administrative leave
Yes,
to do this? Just to make sure all 6 shot?
yes,
And do you know how many shots were fired?
over 70 shots.
70 shots? And then those just lead up to my main question. What's your response to folks who may be concerned with how many shots were fired? 70 shots, 6 officers, 1 person sitting in a car. What would you say to that?
Well, you have 6 officers who perceive things very differently. I think you have to put in context that the one individual sitting in the car was reaching for a gun, had a gun in his hand. He had an officer who did not have his weapon out standing right next to him. So I can't tell you what the officers thought, but I have to believe what they thought, and what they did was what they believed was right.
So that'll be part of the investigation as well, as to why they shot and how many rounds they shot. The training is to assess the rounds as they go, so we'll go through that with them during the investigation.
Did officers go into this investigation, this chase, believing that the suspect was armed when they approached the car?
Yes, because what happens, we know through, even though one outlet reported it was just a stolen car, it was an armed carjacking. So I want to make sure that that's clear. The incident was an armed carjacking that occurred in Baltimore County. So the officers knew that it was an armed carjacking because when the helicopter gets the license plate reader hit, it tells you that the vehicle was taken in an armed carjacking. So our assumption is that whoever's in the vehicle was armed, and you have to approach it like that.
Alex?
Could you speak about the Deputy Commissioner, the training you mentioned, the officers are trained to assess sort of as they're shooting, as the rounds are going off?
Yeah, so during the training, in any law enforcement agency, during firearms training, we train officers to know where the rounds are going and where each round is and whether or not it's necessary. So as they go through the training, as you can imagine, in situations where it's a high tense situation where you're making split-second decisions, it doesn't always happen that quickly. And officers, for the most part, don't get in multiple shootouts, so it probably has never happened to most officers. So they just sort of assess it as they go along the way. So we'll ask during the investigation as to when did they assess and why did they assess it. Those rounds go off very quickly. So within a matter of like 2 to 3 seconds. So again, you have to process that. So we'll go through it with them to find out what their assessing was along the way and how that turned out.
Commissioner, can you speak to the gun issue? I mean, obviously they think it's a gun, a real gun. This is a BB gun. Obviously, they can still kind of inflict the same amount of damage. But the difference between that and the kind of, you said it was not. It looked like another gun. If you can explain that as well.
Yeah, it looked like you saw it. It looked like a real gun. And at that point, with the adrenaline flowing, you got to remember, they believe they have an armed carjacking suspect. And he drops his hand and he goes towards the gun. The one officer sees the gun. They're trained to yell out if they see a gun, 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 gun. That's what he sees, and he makes a decision to shoot. And unfortunately, Mr. Daniels succumbs to his injuries.
Of course, this is 1:22 in the morning, 1:25 in the morning, so it's dark. So when you see that black gun, which you see on the video, it looks just like a Colt 1911. That's what it looks like. It's not marked. It's not orange. It's not yellow. It has no markings on it. And again, it's dark, so when the officer sees that, and the individual was compliant at the beginning, had both hands up, but you can clearly see that he starts to lower one of his hands, and then the officer, we assume, sees the gun because he calls it, and then they open the door, there is a gun there. So it looks exactly like a Colt 1911.
And what you didn't see in the video as well, I don't believe you saw that part, is when Mr. Daniels originally stopped, he'd opened the door to get out, and then he pulled the door back shut and locked it, and the officer standing there trying to get the window and get him out of the vehicle, and unfortunately, he didn't open the door back for us.
I'll take 2 follow-up, Alex, and then we'll be Tommy.
Can you talk about department policy on engaging in a high-speed pursuit and whether that was adequately followed in this case? You said it spanned almost 18 minutes approximately.
Yes, the way any pursuit works, our policy basically prohibits police chases unless there are exigent circumstances. So as a shift commander, you have to assess whether this is getting too dangerous for public safety. The shift commander, I looked at the entire video of Foxtrot. There was very little traffic on the car. Once the helicopter gets over, you can hear him a little bit, the officer in the helicopter, telling our men and women here, you're coming up on this intersection, watch the intersection there, and he can give directions from the sky. So that, as long as they are doing that, it's safe and it's not a danger to the public, we will continue to follow the car. If it gets too dangerous, they will call it off. But our ground units backed off for the most part and let Foxtrot handle it. And fortunate for us, once the helicopter gets above you, it's very difficult to get away from them.
So once you get the raw video, you'll see that the officers are not, quote, chasing, like right behind the car, chasing the car. They are a distance back. Sometimes when the car slows down, they get up closer like they did at the end. But for the most part, when you see the helicopter overhead, the helicopter is the one who's following the vehicle. The officers on the street are just following back. So at some point, there's going to be either a bailout or the car is going to stop, which is what happened. And then we want the officers in the vicinity to be able to take the person into custody.
Tommy, and then we'll do the last couple of guys.
Do we know how many shots of the 70 hit Mr. Daniels?
So we have not got the report back yet from the medical examiner's office.
And last question, Bob?
And then when are you guys going to get statements from the 6 officers who were involved in the shooting? What does that investigation process look like from your end?
So the Attorney General's office will set those up at some point. They haven't been set up yet. Of course, they have the right to, have an attorney there like anybody else would. So what the Attorney General's office does, just like what our team would do, is put all the information together first, and then sit down with the officers and do the statement. So that sometimes is, a few weeks after the event. So it has not happened yet, but the Attorney General's office will set those up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.